Hi everyone, my name is Roz and today I'm going to talk to you about toxic people in the horse world and in your life and how to deal with them and recognise them. Toxic people are often characterised by manipulative, narcissistic or emotionally draining behaviours. They can profoundly impact on other people's lives, and unfortunately we often come into contact with these types of people in the horse world and on social media. The effect they have is designed to undermine your self-esteem, create stress and disrupt relationships through criticism, gaslighting or control tactics. Psychologically, their actions can lead to anxiety, depression or trauma. As victims internalise negativity or question their reality. Socially, they can isolate individuals by sowing conflict or demanding loyalty. Machiavellianism is another aspect of the dark triad, I should say, sorry about that. Some of the distinct characteristics of this personality trait is marked by cunning, manipulation, and a focus on personal gain. Machiavellians deceive and exploit others strategically, often without remorse. They create distrust, destabilise relationships, and foster toxic environments by pitting people against each other or undermining alliances for power. You often see this on social media in groups when people are doing power politics and they'll gang up on somebody else and the object is to make their story believable while focusing on the other person and bringing them down using cunning strategies and manipulation for their own personal gain. Perhaps one of the most deceptive personality type is the communal narcissist. Communal narcissists are individuals who exhibit narcissistic traits but express them through a focus on communal or pro-social behaviours. You often see this in the horse world, especially online and social media. Unlike traditional narcissists who prioritise personal power, status or admiration, communal narcissists derive their self-worth from being seen as altruistic, caring or morally superior. They often emphasise their own contributions to others or society, but still crave validation and admiration for their selflessness. One of the biggest problems in the horse world is unwanted and unsolicited advice. Unwanted and unsolicited advice is a common issue in the horse world, often causing frustration, self-doubt, and tension among riders and horse owners. This phenomenon is particularly prevalent in communal settings like agistment facilities and online platforms where diverse opinions and experience levels collide. Its impact and strategies and how to handle it can often be very difficult. And the reason for that is the horse world encompasses a wide range of disciplines, training philosophies and cultural practices leading to conflicting views. Many feel compelled to share their perspective, believing it's the right way. Others have a desire to help or control. Some offer advice out of a genuine desire to assist, especially if they perceive a mistake or a safety issues. Others may give advice to feel knowledgeable or assert dominance, particularly novices wanting to appear experienced. In close-knit environments where people observe each other's practices, it makes it easy for unsolicited comments to arise. And social media amplifies this with strangers critiquing posts or videos. Some individuals lack boundaries, especially the self-proclaimed experts who fail to recognise that advice is often unwelcome unless requested. In some cases, advice is offered to prevent harm, such as when someone notices unsafe tack or handling, though it can still feel intrusive if it's poorly delivered. An example could be comments on bits, saddles or accessories, like telling someone their snaffle is harmful or their martingale is unnecessary, often without understanding the horse's needs. Another area is training methods, criticism of riding techniques, groundwork or discipline-specific practices, such as suggesting a rider needs to work the horse harder or use of specific training systems. Horse care is another issue where judgments about a horse's weight, hoof care, or general conditions sometimes escalates to accusations of neglect. Rider performances, critiques of a rider's position, skills, or choices often posted publicly online or shouted during a ride. All of these have an emotional toll on the person that is receiving it. Unsolicited advice can erode your confidence, increase self-consciousness, and make riders feel judged or inadequate, especially when it comes from perceived authorities like coaches or other agistment people who have their horses sharing facilities. This can cause relationship strains. Persistent advice giving can create drama, foster resentment, or damage the sense of community, especially online amongst equestrians. We need to discourage negative or critical comments, particularly online, as it can deter newcomers from pursuing a discipline or sharing their journey and harm the general broader equestrian community. Often we see this in groups, for example, Brumby groups who have different foundations and different kinds of ideas, or it could be dressage or Western dressage versus English dressage, or Western riding versus English riding. Look, it could be any number of issues that cause confusion, and contradictory advice from multiple sources can leave horse owners feeling unsure of how to proceed, especially when it conflicts with professional guidance. Strategies to handle unsolicited advice. You can respond with a neutral phrase like, "Thanks for your thoughts, I'll consider it," or "I'm following my trainer's plan right now," then change the subject and walk away, or end the conversation if you're online. Or you might say, "That's interesting, I'll talk it over with my coach." You need to set boundaries, whether it's physical, you're in proximity of somebody, or you're online, but politely but firmly state your preference. You could say, "I appreciate your concern, but I'm working on specific goals and which I need to focus on." Or if someone persists, be direct and say, "I prefer not to discuss this unless I'm asked for advice." It's important to either ignore or disengage, move away from the person if you're in their physical presence or the arena. Ignore their comments entirely to discourage further input. If you're online, respond minimally or not at all to unsolicited critiques. Thanks for your input and leave it at that. It's important to build confidence in your approach. Clarify your values and goals for your horse's training and care. Confidence in your methods will make it easier to shrug off unwanted opinions. And rely on trusted professionals, trainers, vets and farriers to reinforce your decisions, and that will help to reduce the impact of random advice. Another way to do it is to deflect using humour with a light-hearted comment like, "My horse and I are a work in progress and we're having fun." You can diffuse the tension without a confrontation. And if possible, choose your environments during quieter times and move away to a less intrusive adjustment facilities or training facilities. And also in terms of social media, curate your online presence by limiting posts that invite critique and engaging only with supportive communities. Evaluate the advice. If the advice addresses a safety issue, consider it objectively, but verify it with a professional. For non-urgent suggestions, filter them out, what doesn't align with your goals. For example, a warning about a loose cinch might be worth heeding, but a comment on your bit choice may not apply to your horse's needs. So figure out what's realistic and what's not, and don't necessarily take someone else's advice on board just because they proclaim to be an expert. You need to foster a positive community online in particular. And if you're offering advice, only do it when you're asked so, and encourage respect and support. And if you're in a position of influence, address chronic advice givers privately. I run a social network online, And I've set very strong guidelines and rules, and probably in the first month or maybe two of me starting this group, there was some conflict, but I just kept reinforcing those rules over and over, and I removed some of the hardcore criticisers out of the group because I gave the warnings, and when they didn't listen, they got removed. Nowadays, the group has a lot of different people from a lot of different groups come together, and it's really wonderful to see how positive people are and supportive. And so it's not hard, but you have to be persistent. Look, there are exceptions when it comes to advice. If you're in imminent danger, for example, if you see a clear risk in unsafe tack or a horse about to bolt, or do something that's going to be dangerous, speak up. Don't just let someone get hurt. But make sure that it is genuine and not just you wanting to be in control of someone else's life or horse. And only ever offer detailed advice when someone explicitly seeks it or is ensuring that it's relevant to their situation. Casual sharing without imposing on someone is also another way in which you can impart wisdom and knowledge without making the other person feel inferior.